Let's go! Who's up next?
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Xbox Empire. It is I, your host, Kevin, and rejoining me again this week, finally, he's got a whole hour blocked off where he won't be interrupted, Mr. Donnie Reese.
Might get fired for it, but greetings, Koopalings. Yep, I'm here. We are here.
Donnie has turned his phone off. He said no interruptions. It's an important night, so we're just going to get to it. But before we dive into the show proper, we do have to thank, of course, our Patreon producers over at patreon.com/PSVG. So special thank yous to our executive producers, Edwin Callow, Barry Cathcart, Josh the Bonesaw Barboni, Chris McElfresh, Devin Tyus, Kyle Heyman, Paul Calico, Mike Masick, The Egg Shen, Zach Bradshaw, and Nick. I have to say it this way. I'm sorry. Falhaba. How you doing, Nick? So, as you can see, we are joined by someone else this evening. And it's somebody you may not be familiar with, but number one, you should be. And we'll tell you all about why you should be. But in case you're not, Chris Sumsky from Moonlight Kids is here this evening with us on the Empire. Good evening, Chris. Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. I want to jump in here. I'm so excited to have Chris. Chris, to give you a little backstory how I found you guys, I think I stumbled across the Variety article or something. Maybe I feel like it was over a year ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and it dawned on me, and I'm going to let Kev get in here because here's how this actually went down, Chris. I actually messaged Kevin because your game is right up Kevin's alley. And I was like, Kevin, has anybody seen or heard of this game? Because the art style is striking. It is very, very good. I mean, I really love it. I think a lot of people will. And I'm very excited about it because it's kind of I was trying to think of the best way to say this. It's like primitive art style. It's like where the wild things are, kind of like a Song of the Sea type thing. And I really love it. And I really love it. Every time I see your game in motion, I'm like, how is this not on more people's indie radars? On our Nintendo show, I'm constantly rattling off these indies that I track. I usually keep a list. I have about 25, 30 indies that I'm keeping track of, picking up updates on, trying to always report on. And on the Xbox side, it's your game and Tunic. You guys are at the top of my list of the things that I'm constantly
That's pretty good company.
Of.
Thank you.
So I was so excited the day that I found out that you guys had a Discord, and I popped in, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I can follow along. And then Chris and I met Kev, and I was like, if you ever get a chance or if you ever would like to, we would love to promote your game, and I'd love to talk to you about it because, for me, it's the art style. But for Kev, what is it?
It's literally everything. So he sent it to me, and I was like, no, I haven't seen this thing. Let me see. And I read the article, and then I immediately searched for everything I can find. And, we'll obviously give you time to explain it in your own words. But for people who are familiar with me and why it's striking with me, art style as well, because I'm always appreciative of a different take on game design. And this one looks and feels different for sure. But for me, from everything I see, this is Earthbound meets Luigi's Mansion meets Pikmin. And that is everything I love. And I mean, Chris, I've been waiting for another Pikmin forever. And if you're going to fill in that gap, I'd be happy that you're the person to do it. Because this game looks amazing to me. I once again, I don't know how more people aren't talking about it. It looks great. It's unique. It's different. And that's everything I love. Like I'm known as the odd man out on PSVG with, favorites like Katamari Damacy, Chibi Robo, Earthbound, and everyone else kind of just rolls their eyes. But I'm like, no, these games are great. And this seems to be right in that same wheelhouse, which I absolutely love. No hands-on or anything, folks. I haven't played it. Just seeing it and hearing people talk about it and you talking about it on Xbox's stage, was it E3 last year, right? So in seeing it there and getting to the in-depth there, it just made me fall in love with it right away. So once Donnie said like, hey, I think we're going to get a chance to talk to Chris, I was like, yes, I'm doing it. Put me on, put me in coach, and Donnie, of course, obliged to do so.
That's awesome. You didn't know we'd been following you around trying to make your perfect game, did you?
Yes. FBI just looking around.
Yeah.
Where's that webcam behind me? Somebody's watching me. So before we get too far into it, Chris, obviously your studio is Moonlight Kids, and the game we're talking about, of course, I don't think we've even said it yet at this point, is The Wild at Heart.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself first, how you got into game development. What's your backstory, if you will?
Sure. I went to Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm
Wow.
from Atlanta originally. Yep, grew up there. I did a weird major called computational media, which is a lot of things, and games is kind of just one part of that, and sort of bounced around between things for a while before deciding, yeah, I'm going to do video games. I didn't know that was an option as a career, but I'm going to try to do that. And so, after school, I got a job at Cartoon Network Games, which is right across the street from Georgia Tech. They're based in Atlanta. So I was working on their games team as a producer, sort of liaisoning between the studios and our business and third-party developers who were actually making the games. So I did that for a while, 3 or 4 years, and all through that, a little bit starting in college, and all through that, me and my partner Ankith Trivedi, we were doing games on the side, and it just kind of reached a point where we were like, man, we can't do both these things at once anymore. It's too much. So we had to make the call whether to sort of give up the game development on the side or to quit our day jobs and go full on into it. And so we did the latter. I left Cartoon and he left his job, and we ran a company called Crystal Fish Games for 4 years or so, something like that. And we were doing work for hire game development, partnering with a studio called Tiny Monster Studios, and they did art and animation, and we did game design, programming, and project management. So we made a ton of games with them, a lot for Cartoon Network. I sort of like immediately turned around and pitched my old department, and I was like, hey, what about us? So we worked with them, we worked with other clients, did that for a long time, met a lot of people, got a ton of experience. And during all of that, I had met Justin Baldwin, who is now part of Moonlight Kids, and Alex Atkins, also part of Moonlight Kids, and they had their own company called Sleep Ninja Games, sort of doing what Crystal Fish was doing, but with their own games. And they had also released an indie game called Monsters Ate My Birthday Cake, which is adorable and amazing. Yeah, you'll probably like that one.
Looking that up right now.
Yeah. It's great. It's really cute. So, long story short, I guess, Ankith and I were always the plan was always to, scale down the work for hire, scale up our own projects, our indie stuff, what everyone hopes to do, I think, one day. And the stars sort of aligned with Justin and Alex. And Justin, they were sort of already starting to put the concept together for Wild at Heart, both in terms of story and art, and Justin was making mock-ups, and they were writing sort of lore and world building and stuff like that. They had kind of been like doing that on the side while they were still making other games for Sleep Ninja for about a year. I don't know the timeline exactly. It's all pretty ambiguous because, when can you work on stuff on the side? But anyways, around late 2018, the stars kind of aligned where Crystal Fish was in a spot where we were like, had a little bit of cash, but we're in between projects. They were sort of in the same boat. We had this idea that we thought was really cool with Wild at Heart. Justin and Alex had put a lot into it already. Needed kind of to go full on into there was a bit of a prototype going on, but we needed to kind of go full steam into code and that kind of thing. So, we kind of just made the decision, like, let's go for it. It was getting some action on Twitter, and which is not, maybe not the best metric for business success, but I think maybe one or two of Justin's tweets kind of went viral, and we are like, dang, maybe we really have something here. So yeah, we made the leap. Late 2018, I think we officially formed Moonlight Kids in August of 2018. Sort of just like a fresh start, new company, all of us together. And yeah, so we've kind of been working on just Wild at Heart, Moonlight Kids ever since, burning through our own cash for a while there. looking for a publisher. Like from the get-go, we knew we wanted a publisher. Like we had the vision for the game size, like not just a small little game. Like we wanted to be a big, not AAA, not 60 hours or anything,
Right,
but like an experience that it's going to take time. And so we knew we wanted a publisher. We don't know anything about marketing. We've been in the business long enough to know what we're good at and what we're not. So we hunted for a publisher, and I think it was April of 2019, last year, where we signed with Humble Bundle, which was then the label presented by Humble Bundle, and
right.
has recently rebranded to Humble Games. Yeah, which is great.
Which makes a lot more sense, by the way. I've commented before. I never understood the presented by Humble Bundle company as a publisher. This is much better. So
yeah, and they have a lot of different arms of their business, and even then, a little over a year ago now, I think most people didn't even know they were doing indie publishing.
Yeah, I didn't find out about it until it was IGN bought them, right?
Yeah, they had bought. I'm going to get the date wrong, but right, they had purchased them a year or two prior, something like that. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I didn't find out that they were really publishing until then. I think one of the news stories. I was like, oh wow, this is neat. And then it's even more. It's like, so IGN quasi is in the publishing business, but I remember that they're very like, it's like just one of many subsidiaries that they kind of just take on and let them run.
Yeah, and that was obviously a consideration when we were talking to people and talking to publishers. It's like, man, they are owned by IGN. Like, you just never know. It's like, is that going to end up being a factor? But they promised us it never was, and it shouldn't be. And like, it's been great.
For the record, listeners, I have still yet to see IGN really cover the game. So I'm just, I've seen it on Red Bull. I've seen it on a Variety. I've seen it on YouTube.
Red Bull covered it.
I have not seen that IGN article yet.
I have a list of all of our mentions. I don't think IGN was one of them. So we've met some IGN folks, but yeah. So yeah, I think that's the story. We signed with Humble and sort of secured the longevity of the development, and kind of been trucking along ever since.
So, which that's a good thing. That's got to be comforting, having that piece out of the way, so you can focus on making it a reality type thing.
Both in terms of pure time, like I think if you've never done it before, if you're just not in like the development side of games at all, you might not think about that time. Like the time it takes to shop around a game is intense, and it's like, it's not just sitting at your computer writing code, which is what I do now all the time,
right?
Or writing, designing levels and stuff. It's like, you're like, what's the expression, beating the pavement or something. Like, you're out there and you're emailing people, and like, for me, it can be out of my comfort zone a little bit, trying to schmooze, I guess, or whatever, and like really
networking,
like
man. You're not
being a salesman. It's like, that's tough, and a lot of especially indie game developers we're all just like in our own heads and like, I just want to make a game.
I think I first caught a lot of whiff of that with Indie Game the movie, and when I was watching that and seeing how they were just going from show to show to show, it's like a traveling circuit. It's like, when did they ever sit down and make the game? And it's like
the game
in hotel rooms and in conference rooms and at lunch and breakfast. So I could only imagine that it's because like even like the God of War documentary, right, that came out, we saw that they had several staff that was just focused on making sure people were hitting deadlines and were on track. Like it's a lot. There's a lot more to making a game beyond just making the game itself.
Yeah, and we're only 4 people, so yeah, we work with amazing composer and sound designer as well, who we were able to sign them on for their part once we had funding totally secured. But for the most part, day to day, full time, it's 4 of us, and to be trying to make the game, it's like this crazy catch-22, right? It's like, you got to make the game to be able to show the game, to be able to get someone to give you money to keep making the game to finish it. Yeah. Where in that loop do you like be like, come on, someone, we need someone to bite here? And not that we were talking to a lot of people, and we were very lucky and very fortunate in a lot of ways that so many people were interested in the game. So it's just time, and it's draining on some levels. So yes, anyways, very long-winded way of me saying, when we did finally sign, it was huge, and we were like, oh my god, we could just make the game now. It's great.
I have a couple questions. So your Moonlight Kids, 4 folks, Do you guys have a shared working space, or are you doing it remotely?
We are fully remote,
Okay.
totally distributed. We are, let's see, now two of us are in Atlanta. That would be Alex and Ankith. I'm originally from Atlanta, like I said, but I moved to Portland with my wife in 4 years ago.
Is that how you
Little-
came across Lena at some point? Did you guys cross paths in Atlanta? Like I
So
have?
me and Zach worked at Cartoon together.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, her.
Kev, catching you up. Chris and I both know Lena and the Zero Inbox people. Zach, you
Yeah,
remember
Zero
the
Inbox.
game from Momocon? Yeah, I caught on their game real early a couple years ago, and I've been kind of talking. We have a board game podcast, so I've been dropping mentions about it every now and again because I actually think their idea is really, really neat.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for the
Well-
Kickstarter because I think if people play it, and that probably be said about most board games, but I think what's the best way of saying it? Like their board game is very like common people. Yeah, it has like a lowest common denominator. Like everybody can relate to that game, right? And it's not difficult. It's kind of like Life or like Monopoly or like Sorry. It's very basic in terms, but it's funny and it's witty, and everybody knows those emails and those things that happen in the workplace. So I was like, I think you guys have something here. It's really, really good.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, like you said, that low barrier to entry, that approachability. But then you get in and you play it, and you're like, oh wait, this is actually fun too. That's great.
Exactly.
Like sometimes you don't expect that from like a game that might look like Monopoly or Life or something.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry, I got off track a little bit. I do that a lot. That's what I bring to the show.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say was, all right. So with you guys being remote, I imagine that the pandemic and social distancing, everything has basically been status quo for you guys. You guys haven't been overall impacted too much.
Yeah, I mean, on a business level, not really at all. We are all, like I said, we all work from home. Two of us in Atlanta. I'm in Portland. Justin is in Spokane. He used to live here, but moved back to Spokane last year. And our two audio guys are here in Portland with me. But yeah, we don't have any shared working space. We all just work from home. So when the pandemic started, as far as like business operations goes, it was like, it's like weirdly normal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like,
With
what's
the
the big deal?
news,
Why is everybody else
everything's
freaking
going
out?
nuts. You're just like,
I'm like, oh, I could tell you how to work from home. Been doing it
Yeah,
for
right.
5 years. Yeah, so
So Wild at Heart, the Wild at Heart. Sorry, let's talk about that now. So give us the rundown for those that may not be familiar with it. We posted the gameplay video in our Discord and everything, but for those that haven't been following, what's the rundown of the game?
yeah, sure. So from a story, and this is like a lot of gameplay, like you already mentioned, and I'll get into those inspirations and stuff too. But it's also a heavily story-driven game. Like we love story. Alex is a phenomenal writer and world builder, so that's huge for us. So from a story point of view, you play as Wake and his friend Kirby, and they live in a town in the Pacific Northwest called Willowvale, and they hatch a plan to run away together. And in the beginning of the game, you are just Wake running away, and you stumble into like another world. You kind of get lost in the woods. I mean, he's 12; he doesn't know what he's doing. He gets lost and ends up stumbling into this like other world, and there he meets these sort of like quirky order of people who are you've come to know them as the Green Shields, but they're like they want to help you, but they're also a little like aloof, and they're like, oh, just follow me, just come with me, like we'll help you. So they're like kind of like not listening to him, but not on purpose, they're just kind of doing their thing. And you also meet these forest creatures called Spritelings, and the Spritelings both play, a story role and a world building role, but also are huge to the gameplay. Like you already mentioned, Pikmin is a massive inspiration for us. There are not enough Pikmin games. They're like what we've sort of jokingly call herd likes. But yeah, so the Spritelings are some of the creatures that inhabit this other world, and they also like are really willing to help, and you befriend more and more of them as the game goes on. So. And then, I won't get into the story too much beyond there because I don't want to spoil anything, but you come to, first Wake just wants to get home. And then, again, without spoiling anything, eventually Kirby comes into the picture as well. And she is a second playable character. And that sort of ties into gameplay and puzzles and things like that. But she also has a big role to play in the story as well. And then the story kind of evolves and gets bigger as you find out what the green shields are all about and what this other world, like what's actually happening here. And there's kind of like a bigger thing going on. That's again, I'll try to stay abstract here because it's really good and I want people to experience it as it unfolds. But yeah.
Right. Clearly, it can't just be a kid got lost in the woods and stumbled into another universe. There's got to be some
way
big
home
thing. Right. Oh, that's it. Done. But yeah, so the Spritlings are, very much Pikmin-like. You're going to use them for your combat and to collect items and buildings for you, break down barriers and stuff according to the gameplay. And then Wake has his air quotes weapon or tool, the Gustbuster, which is inspired between like the Ghostbusters Proton Pack and Luigi's Poltergust, where you're able to suck in items, it looks like, and I'm sure there's probably maybe more uses for it later on that hasn't been revealed yet. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Are you able to say, do you use the Gustbuster for combat purposes, or is it only to collect your Spritlings and your crafting items you pick up?
Yeah, sure, I can go into that. So the Gustbuster, I'd have to ask Justin exactly where it came from, but I think you nailed it as far as the inspiration goes. Luigi's Mansion and Ghostbusters, but it's been a visual part of Wake since the very beginning. I'm pretty sure. Again, like Justin would know the specifics on that, but from a gameplay point of view, it also serves a number of purposes. Like, if anyone who's played Pikmin knows, like, managing them is a huge part of the game. You can't just like throw them. You have to like be able to get them and get who you want and direct them and things like that. So we needed our own version of that just wasn't, let's copy the whistle from Pikmin.
Sure.
So, and Wake is also, he's a bit of a tinkerer. Like, he fancies himself kind of an inventor, which is kind of where the crafting comes into play as well. But he kind of made this backpack, this like vacuum cleaner backpack that he calls the Gustbuster. So it kind of plays into his character and personality, but it also is a huge tool for us for managing your Spritlings. And you over the course of sort of the intro of the game, it gets like upgraded, I'll say. And then so very quickly you have 2 tiers, and that's like a massive part of the gameplay. So you have like the low tier, which is a way to sort of do crowd control and get what we call idle or roaming Spritlings to kind of come back to you. If you just touch them with that, they'll like, oh, I see you, and they'll run back. But then you have the hard pull, which is more like physics-based stuff. You can like physically pull Spritlings off of tasks they're doing, or pull them over water or off of high ledges and things like that. So it serves a lot of purposes. And then, like you said too, just like for vacuuming stuff up, like loose currency or items, things like that.
Now, the Spritlings we've seen, at least I've seen in the gameplay, that I've seen 2 different kind of like a nature one, which is your basic just run-of-the-mill Spritlings, and then I don't know what the other ones are called, but they were like the rock ones. They were able to break down those crystal barriers. Has more been revealed yet? Are you able to talk about how many different varieties of Spritlings there might be? Or
I will talk about 3.
Okay.
And maybe hint at at least one more.
Okay.
So yeah, the nature ones are the Twiglings. Those are the guys with the little antlers. And they do nature stuff. They're immune to sort of the noxious gases of the mushrooms that are around. There are some things that we haven't like revealed. We haven't shown any footage of or anything, but they can do some other stuff like help plants grow. So you might be able to, I don't know, create a vine wall that you can climb up, or like a lily pad bridge. They can also, we're experimenting with like having them maybe be able to like dig up stuff, like because they're nature, they can like get into the dirt and dig up treasures and things like that. That one we still are prototyping. It's obviously like something Pikmin does, and sometimes like trying to find the balance of like, oh, we're paying homage to Pikmin, or like Pikmin did that really well, and also being like, oh, we need to kind of go our own way in this particular thing.
Yeah.
So like the digging is one which like is right on that line for us. We're like, do we do this? It's so great though.
Yeah, if you need it, it makes sense. I get it.
Yeah. So those are the Twiglings. You also have the ones that were rock based. They were called Pebblings. We actually
Pebblings, that's right.
Changed them. I think when we showed the game at E3, which is where there is that video you mentioned, which is not ours. It's floating around the web, so that's fun. No control of it anymore.
Oh, geez.
But it's okay. We agreed to have the game filmed.
Sure.
But yeah, so since I think last year when we showed that, the Pebblings have become ice-based. We kind of made the call that,
okay.
kind of going back to that Pikmin inspiration thing. It's like, where do we kind of try to blaze our own trail here? And we decided to make like an ice-based spriteling instead. So they kind of look the same with sort of those polygonal faces and stuff, but they're made of ice and they kind of like shimmer.
Awesome.
And stuff like that. Yeah, and so they can freeze things, freeze enemies in combat, and still kind of messing around with them. But so far, like they can do that kind of stuff. They're immune to, any hazards that put off like ultra cold. They can kind of like attack those where others can't. Yeah, so those are the Shiverlings, and then we have the Emberlings, which we have shown off at PAX East back when the world was functioning. The last games event of all time, perhaps.
So yeah, that's right. That was the last one.
Yeah, and even then, things are getting pretty scary there. But yeah, so the Emberlings are sort of fire-based guys. They look like little embers, and they can they're immune to heat and hot stuff, and they can sort of spark fires on dry brambles and things like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
This makes me so happy because, like, it's a backstory. PSVG fans know there's been a disruption in my house since there's been a lack of Pikmin, to say the least. Years and years and years ago, Shigeru Miyamoto said that, Pikmin 4 is basically done, guys. It'll be here soon, and that has clearly never happened. And we traded in or sold the Wii U to help pay for the Nintendo Switch under the guise to my wife, who absolutely loves Pikmin even more than I do, was, there'll be a new Pikmin coming like right away, no problem.
At the very least, they'll port it.
And there's been nothing.
Yeah.
So I showed this to her, and she goes, "Oh, this looks pretty cool." Like, so it got me off the hot seat for now. Because she reminds me at least once a month, hey, remember that time you traded in Pikmin and we can't play Pikmin anymore and I really want to play Pikmin? So this is my saving grace for my marriage right now, hopefully. So this is all great news to hear.
No pressure.
Well,
yeah, no pressure.
For the sake of your marriage, I'll make a little announcement. The Steam Summerfest is next week.
Yes.
Which was originally scheduled for this week, but was delayed. And we are taking part in the Steam Summerfest. So we will have a demo out. I believe the dates are the 14th. No, sorry, Tuesday the 16th till the morning of Tuesday the 23rd. So
nice.
Our
awesome.
demo will be up live on Steam during the Summerfest. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, it is.
It'll be the first time the game, exciting and nerve-wracking, but the first time the game has been like publicly available on such a wide scale.
Sure.
Oh, sure. Right.
Yeah, so we've been prepping very hard for that.
I saw folks playing at PAX, and I sent friends that were at PAX. I was like, "Go find this game. Go check them out." So I'm excited to be able to go hands-on with it. I mean, when you guys send out like a demo or like a vertical slice, is the intention is it to pull feedback? Is it to see how things are hitting? Is it to test your own code?
It's definitely some of that. I would say it's like it's play testing. Like, we need to see how people react, what people like, what they don't like, what's working, what's not. You put it in front of someone, and like within 5 minutes, you're like, wow, I've literally never thought to do that. That's amazing. So it's like finding that kind of thing. Yeah, some testing of our, like bug testing and stuff like that. But for the most part, we hope what's playable in the demo is like relatively bug free.
Sure. Right.
Because,
right.
we just don't want to break that experience for anyone. And then the other big part of it is obviously just spreading the word and marketing.
Yeah.
Things like that, just trying to get the word out. So.
Well, this Summer Game Fest is really, really cool idea, and it seems like Keeley, has visions of taking the Summer Games Fest to consoles and other platforms in the future, and he's talking about that with, this whole summer thing that he's doing if that continues. I think it's great. I think a lot of us, like, I don't know if that's the right word, but a lot of, at least us here at PSVG, definitely us podcasters, I think we've all thought, E3 could have been more digitally available.
Yeah.
It would have been great to bring some of those demos that are on the show floor to people, via their PCs or via consoles, let them play some of those experiences. Like we had the Best Buy events for a couple years there, but you still had to go to Best Buy and wait in line. And we understand that it's demo. right? And it's not
Yeah.
finished product, and it's probably it might have issues and things like that. And like, I think most players, we have game preview and early access betas and things like that. I feel like we're at a place now where folks can come to grips with that and not expect too much. But I say all of that from a player side of the house. I'm not exactly sure how a developer such as yourself might see that on the other end.
Right. Yeah, certainly that's like just something we talk about all the time. Like, going to shows is one thing because we control pretty much everything about the experience. We're there. If someone gets stuck, we can be like, oh, actually, let me help you out. We usually we're controlling the hardware, or if we're not controlling it, we know way in advance what the hardware is going to be. We know the controller. I mean, every event we've ever been to, we've just used an Xbox controller, and we can control that. Things like that. Sound is not a problem. Like, you don't need sound settings. Everyone's either going to put the headphones on or they're not. Stuff like that. Just like all this stuff. So when we go to put it on Steam and for next week, that's kind of all out the window. People can play it on whatever they want. They can use keyboard, mouse. They can plug in a PS4 controller. They can plug in a random controller I've never heard of. Just like everything I just mentioned. It's like now we have to support all this stuff for a demo, which is maybe in a normal game production might not come till later, way later, because sort of like auxiliary systems and things like that. So, there's a lot of getting ready for that. Just making sure, simple things, like things players probably don't think about a lot of it. They just like expect to happen or like kind of nice to have. But it's like if I put down my controller and then move my mouse, all the icons swap over to being like, of course, keyboard mouse, stuff like that. Like, that's actually not that easy to do, but it's something that just like needs to happen, like for sure. Yeah. So, we had to do a lot of that stuff to get ready. And then, kind of what you're talking about is where's that expectation for players? How much like goodwill are they going to give us if they hit bugs or hit something weird? It's like, I think a lot, like you're saying, Donnie, I think a lot of players will understand, like, oh, it's a demo. But we're also just very hard on ourselves. Like, that doesn't look good. Like, we're
of course.
We've all seen YouTube comments and Twitter things. Like, I understand there's a certain level out there that, that's why I said us may not be the best word. I'm not exactly sure how many my opinion might represent. It might be the minority there. I'm not sure. But I understand that, it's a moving target for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're not sure either for sure, but I think that the only, the best thing we can do is just to be super hard on ourselves. And I think we because we're just in it day in, day out for like, months and months and, almost 2 years now, we're going to see a lot of little things that most people aren't going to see. So if we can hold ourselves to that standard, I think we'll be fine. So
now, in terms of feedback, are you hoping folks make their way to your Discord, or do you want to use the Steam communities, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yes, we hope people make their way to our Discord. That's sort of, as far as the community goes, that's kind of where we are all the time. Yeah. We have Discord open 24/7. Well, okay. All the hours that I'm at my computer, I have Discord open. I have it open right now. So yes.
23/7, really.
Yeah. Yes. So yes, I think we would love people to make their way to our Discord. We've even talked today. I mean, unofficial. We need to plan it and schedule it, but we're thinking about like, okay, at the end of Steam Fest or towards the end, let's do like an open feedback session in the Discord. So anyone who has played the demo can like chat with us and we can take feedback. But that said, we also want to be wherever people are. So if people just like Steam's community features and like the community pages, that's totally that's cool with us. We're going to be there too. So if we see things start to pop up on the community pages, like we're going to be following that stuff, and maybe not like 23/7, but we're going to obviously keep our eye on those every day and address things and respond to people.
And I've liked, I'm a Discord like power user. I'm not a Steam user. I only play Steam games when I have to, really. When the game is like only on Steam, I'm like, I guess I'll do it, So I'm enjoying seeing that. And as an active member of your Discord, I mean, you guys have had like your Ask the Dev sessions, and I've gotten so much knowledge from just listening, just watching, those conversations take place. Because you have so many fans that have so many questions about different typings and different gameplay mechanics and sound design and stuff. And I like it when you guys do those. So I'll be looking forward to that as well.
Cool.
And I'm definitely looking forward to this demo. I'm definitely going to play that next week. Might stream it.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, but they're going to be a little more like news journal questions. So you ready?
Right.
You ready to dance? You ready to do the wordsmithing?
Let's go. Hopefully I know what's going on.
All right. So your platforms that you've announced are PC and Xbox.
Yes.
I have to ask, do you know if it's coming to Game Pass?
Or can you say if it's coming to Game Pass? Really?
I can't say anything on that yet.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Do
Stay
you
tuned.
have an anticipated release window that you're currently kind of benchmarking that you can share?
We are aiming for early 2021. I think is
Okay.
like our
Okay.
latest
Okay.
public saying. Yeah.
The next one is more just for you as a developer, but I mean it's all the rage right now, so I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. What do you think about next gen and this box that Xbox currently has? And we have the PlayStation 5 reveal tomorrow, and like that's kind of all the rage right now. And we're about to enter a new hardware cycle and all that. I mean, I'm sure you're already speccing for lots of different PC builds and stuff, but does the horizon of new hardware and new capabilities, does that get you really excited? Is it just more you've got to do and more you've got to learn and things like that?
I mean, it's always exciting. Like I love that. I mean, I love when new stuff comes out and just getting to follow along and seeing what's going on. One thing about our sort of style, like we're just not really pushing the boundaries of what hardware can do.
Sure.
With our, I mean, this would probably surprise folks, but our game actually is in 3D. It's like a 3D world, 3D space. And a lot of the terrain and like geometry is 3D meshes and stuff. We just sort of spend a ton of time to get the look and the feel so that it kind of looks 2D, but you still get that like parallax and perspective moving around. But even with all that going on, like we're not really pushing the limits of like what even a current gen console is going to be able to do. So
let me rephrase. I am very excited about a lot of these quality of life and program improvements that Xbox is doing. Things like smart delivery and, supporting hard drives and plug and play and making it just super easy. The PC and, via Game Pass, PC and Xbox and xCloud. I mean, as a smaller dev team, you have 4 people. Does having access to all of these different things and correct me if I'm misstating this, but is Microsoft making this avenue available for all this technology to get your game to players? Is that exciting? Like, does that make you want to support Xbox and Microsoft in like kind of their mission?
Yeah, I mean that stuff is definitely exciting to me. Like, the more places we can be, and the more opportunities people have to not only play our game but to get to games. Like, that's pretty cool. That's cool to me, like make it more easily accessible, make it easier to distribute games to more people. I mean, I will admit I'm not like super up to date on all the features and stuff, which maybe that's also surprising, but
you're making a game.
You're busy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like some people would be like, well, you're making an Xbox game. It's like, yeah, we are, but some of that stuff comes later. I
always have this, I don't know, weird idea in my head. I'm sitting here thinking, like, if you're a developer such as yourself and you wanted to make a game for a console, and I think most developers want to make games for all platforms, right, all customer bases. But the idea that if you put your game on the Xbox store, it's available to Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox One X. It'll be available on the Xbox Series X. It'll be available on PC if you do Game Pass, and people can play it from their phone via xCloud. And so here's the part that I don't know, and I'm not sure if you know either, but like, is there anything that you have to do extra to your game to make that like xCloud happen, or you just put your game on the Microsoft store and they're like, hey, do you want to stream it? Because we've got that.
Yeah, I have full disclosure not looked into xCloud stuff at all yet.
Okay.
So if anyone from Xbox is listening, I'm sorry. We're just not there yet. We try to stay up on the sort of the headlines and the highlights of what is going to be pertinent to us. But as far as like getting into the technical side of it, yeah, we've really just done sort of the base, like, hey, the game runs on the Xbox. That's cool.
Awesome.
And stuff like that. So that stuff is very exciting though. And like, I mean, the game running on a phone is also kind of terrifying because I'm like, I don't know how anyone's going to control our game on a phone, but but it's exciting, the prospect that the game could be like so many different places and like, you know, more opportunities for us, more opportunities for people to play the game. That's pretty cool. So yeah.
Anything
Cool.
else, Kev?
No, I'm just excited to get my hands on this thing. So the prospect of having the demo next week is pretty awesome. So I will definitely be playing it. I'll stream it for sure. Donnie will probably do the same. But I'm looking forward to this.
I've been waiting to play this game forever.
It's checking all the right boxes.
It is weird. I was telling Kev, Chris, before we went into this, because I've been planning this for a while. I've been trying to have you on for a little bit. And between everything that's going on and just our schedules, it's taken to now. But this isn't new, and I'm still somewhat shocked that I feel like we're early on your game. I'm like, and it really, I love that experience. Because like, who knows? Like your game might become the next ID at Xbox darling, and then you'd be too big. You'd be too big for us. Like we couldn't get you. Like you've got IGN and GameSpot, and like you got all these things. You're like, I got to talk to Jeff Keighley, Donnie. I'm sorry. So like, and I would understand that. So, but I'm really excited. Like I got that way with Golftopia. We're early on those. We've been early on a few, and it's a lot of fun for us as people just love playing video games and buying video games, being customers. I feel like when you can get folks when they're real indie, like super indie, it's I learned so much. Even just this conversation alone, your development cycle and your schedule and the things you're doing and all, supporting like everything you said about releasing a demo into the wild and things. I don't think people get to hear that enough.
No.
And I think that's why those expectations, as you referred to, I think that's why they happen, because, dude, life's pretty sweet as a gamer right now. Like there's thousands of options. They're super cheap.
So
Everything works all the time, so like I can understand how unaware folks might have a little bit entitlement. Like they're like, wait a minute, this got a bug? What is this? I could see that.
Yeah. I am a huge advocate for just like talking, like more open dialogue between, hey, I'm totally willing to share. Obviously, we don't want to spoil the game.
Of course.
Barring that, it's like I love talking about what development actually looks like and what our day-to-day is and problems we have and things we find very exciting that other people are like, I never even noticed that.
Yeah.
It's like I love talking about that stuff because it just, I think it opens a little bit of a window into
we don't get enough of that. And when we do, if I may, especially at a AAA studio level, it's very sanitized. It's very prepared. Like I don't think and I think that is why sometimes, like I said, expectations come into it. It's like, well, if we don't know, we don't know. We don't know that Frostbite can't run on Switch. Nobody's told us why. Like, like there's things like that happen.
If they're just getting up there and showing you like the biggest, shiniest version of how development looks, like, that's going to help inform the expectation for sure.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, here's our corporate office. Here's this room of 25 different people working together, collaborating right now. But the realist, is, okay, there's, you're 25% of the entire workforce talking to us right now. And you guys are working remote, making this game that in my mind looks better than some of the things I've seen come out from bigger studios.
True.
So like you look at this thing and you can tell that the care and the heart behind it, which kind of gets pasteurized a little bit in the messaging because it's all like marketing this, marketing that, where what you folks are doing at Moonlight Kids is more guerrilla marketing. Like, yes, you were on Xbox's stage talking about it, but more of what you're doing is talking to the people, talking to us, and getting that backstage view is kind of the cool thing I think a lot of gamers don't think about. They just say, oh, I got this game, let me download it, or, oh, I got to the store, here's this game in a box, and they don't think about the origins, where it came from, how it was, conceptualized, the years that go into working on it and the turmoil, from studio to studio, or trying to find that publisher. All the details you gave us is something I don't think enough gamers, number one, appreciate or have the opportunity to really hear the true stories behind it.
And it's, obviously it's not just indie, like, and I could talk for days about our game and like, there's only 4 of us. And so my role proportionately, all of our roles is like huge, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, like you said, 25% or whatever it ends up being. But the same is still true for like, go to any 500 person studio and grab anyone on that workforce, and like they are just as passionate about their role on that game. It's just like usually those people don't, the leadership there probably won't let them get on a podcast. Like
Yes.
talk
exactly.
about it at great length and stuff. But it's like, I think indies kind of get a reputation for being super passionate, and we obviously are, but so is like, the UI programmer on Call of Duty.
That's why we love all you guys.
Right.
I mean, we love indie games. We have forever. I think everybody on the team mostly does. Yeah. So, we're, like I said, I got a list of 30 that I'm not doing it every day, but usually about once or twice a month, I'll go through my list and I'll just start Googling and stuff like, where's
Nice.
where's the Wild at Heart? What's it doing lately? I haven't heard about it in a bit. Let's go check in on it and see if there's some new
Awesome.
stuff out there. So,
What are you guys playing right now, if I can ask?
well, I let go of my Xbox last week to get a new one that just came in today. So last week I was playing Clubhouse 51 Games with Sean Capri and Jace, good friends of the show, and I got an alert. Well, it was like 2 a.m. We got an alert that Xbox had cut the Cyberpunk Xbox edition by $100. It was originally $3.99 with the game and the controller, like the collector's edition.
Right.
And now it's $2.99. And my first reaction was, I bet I could sell my Xbox for more than that. And I totally did. It sold that morning. I listed it before I went to bed. It sold that morning. When I woke up, it had sold. I bought the new one, so that arrived today. So, I mean, it's great. I took I put pictures of it on Twitter and videos and stuff. It's got a little boot up menu and everything. So I haven't been playing my Xbox for the last 6 days because of that. But I won't go into all about the console. You guys can read about the console. There's like a mini documentary Xbox channel about how they made the console. But I really like it. I got the game. I got the flip. So that was great. I didn't pay anything out of pocket. I actually netted a little bit. So I'm really excited about that. And I did want to say, one of the things that I loved that no other console can even come close to, and it's such a minor detail, but these are the things that I love about playing games on Xbox and why I want to buy my games there. Kevin, I took the console out of the box, I plugged it into the TV, I turned it on. It obviously, what does every console do? We've got an update for you, right?
Yeah.
So it starts downloading the update. While it's downloading the update, they're like, hey, do you want to set this up? Sign in on your phone.
Oh,
so
nice.
I sign into my phone, and it just pulls all of my Xbox profile, and they're like, we'll take care of this. So by the time the update had downloaded, my Xbox, just like the one that I sold on Saturday, pops up just like it was. I plug in my hard drive, all my games are there. I didn't have to. Awesome. I didn't have to run an installer. I didn't have to flash it. It just plugs and plays. And I was like, why doesn't everything work like that? Like, this is so easy. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, that's great. That's so great.
For me, I'm playing Clubhouse games as well, and Animal Crossing on Switch. This is going to be bad for an Xbox show. I currently can't play Xbox because I'm also playing The Last of Us 2 right now for a review embargo that comes up in a couple days. So I've had to kind of dive headfirst in on that for the time being on PlayStation. But yeah.
Out of the 3 of us on an Xbox show, none of us are playing Xbox anymore.
Yeah, I was up until this fell into my lap, and then I had to put the Xbox aside.
I was playing Maneater, and I was playing a little bit of that, and I was playing PGA Tour golf, getting ready for that. I've been playing that, so I've been playing some things, and I was in Mafia 2, but and it flipped my Xboxes, so I had to take a few days off. But man, the new one's hot, and I tell you, I think it looks better in person than it did. I wasn't like super sold on it when I got it. Now that I have it, I'm really glad I got it, especially the controller. Controller looks a lot better than I thought it did. It's much more like shiny, like chromy than I ever anticipated from the marketing stuff. I didn't realize that. It definitely came out of the box kind of with some reflection and stuff. I was like, oh, that's quite good.
I was playing a ID at Xbox game, Those That Remain.
Ooh, how is that?
That I talked a little about it on Prime. I was enjoying it. It was less horror than they kind of marketed it towards, but the game just has a sense of making you feel uncomfortable because the premise is you're kind of working through this story where ultimately you decide people's fates, essentially, but your goal is to navigate these set pieces, these houses or buildings or whatever, but you have to stay in the light.
Right.
Anytime you're in the darkness, there's just these shadow figures with glowing blue eyes just all standing there, like 20 of them in a row just staring at you. And if you go too far into a room that's dark, the screen just shakes and it ends. Like you have to reboot back in. So essentially you have to find ways to navigate and get lights on so that these figures dissipate and kind of disappear. But kind of just gave you an uneasy sense versus a horror effect. But it was pretty cool.
It reminds me of that Guilt game that's on Stadia. That's why I wanted to look into it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like an Alan Wake type vibe.
Yeah, it is with a little less. It's definitely more walking simulator.
Sure.
With some horror aspects. Like Alan Wake was a little bit more involved. This is more just go here, find this item to get to this place to do this thing. It's not very light puzzly effects, essentially.
Okay. I'm going to try
But-
it once I get
Cool.
downloaded to the new Xbox.
You should. I
Well,
recommend.
you, Chris, what have you been playing when you're not working?
Yeah. Speaking of Alan Wake, I just finished Control,
Nice.
which was very cool.
Yep.
My game of the year last year, personally.
Awesome.
I love that game.
My game of the year last year was Outer Wilds by a mile, but
Yes.
I could
Yes. That was mine too.
have me on again. I'll talk for hours about that game. I love that game so much. Control, Animal Crossing. My wife has really taken over our island now, so she's doing most of the work there. What else am I playing? League of Legends every now and then with my brother.
Cool.
And yeah, Ori 2. Will of the Wisps.
Yes.
Amazing.
That's
Very
probably
good.
my game of the year this year. It's my leading. It's my
very
lead
good,
candidate.
yeah.
I love it. Kevin doesn't. So we were very opposed on this. I think Ori 2 is the best Metroidvania game I've played, like in modern times, like last two
Better than
generations,
Hollow Knight,
maybe.
huh?
I couldn't beat Hollow Knight.
No, Donnie had a love-hate with Hollow Knight.
The Soul Master broke me. It just like crushed me, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. But I could do Ori, and it took me a bit, but I got through. I got all the way through Ori 2, and for a platformer, I think it was one of the more touching. I don't know if like stories. I mean, there's definitely story, but it's not necessarily. It's like an experience. You're experiencing the world in the way
It's
that
like
game does it, and I think it's just I'm a sucker for art.
It's beautiful.
I think
It's
more
absolutely
than
Game.
more than a lot of folks. Maybe Kevin, do you think that's fair?
Yeah.
I'm a real sucker for art. So like anytime I get something that looks that beautiful mixed with the music and kind of the sentimental stuff, and it starts putting all that together, it's right down my alley. I'm a big Life is Strange fan, so things like that. Like, and Ori was just, and plus the thing that I said most about Ori, because we haven't really had a chance to talk about it on Xbox Empire, I was really impressed with the platforming sections that I cleared when I finished the game. Like there were moments in the game where I was like, I can't believe it just did that. I can't believe I shot this over the thing, ran through the tunnel, jumped, missed the spikes, caught it in midair to launch me to the next platform. Like the way it taught me, I said it. One of the things I did say when I was playing is I used the entire controller. It was not like a Mario or like a Samus, like AB, double jump type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I use the entire thing. It almost requires you to like become an adept player at it.
It's like, it's one of those games where I always talk about it. It's like where you like forget about the controller.
Yes.
It's just going like straight from my brain to the screen. It's like everything is just mapped so well, and they teach it so well, and you just like, man, it feels amazing. The game feels amazing.
It trains you. I mean, that's like the best way of putting it. Like it just conditions you to doing. And by the end, and it doesn't, and I guess the thing that I find most fascinating, and this is me as a player, I have no idea like what this comes like from the dev side, but I never felt like it was hard. Like Hollow Knight got to a point where it's like, I can't do this. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Ori, I never felt like I was like, I can't do this. Even when I died, I was like, I can do this. But there was a point, from hour 1 to hour 10, where hour 10, I'm flying across, like I'm basically flying.
Yeah, you're like superhero.
Yeah,
status.
I'm moving through the entire world doing all of these combinations, but the way it taught me up to that point, I would not have told you that it was hard or hard to pull off. I was like, oh no, I've done this 100 times already.
Right.
Yeah,
Like I guess that's design. Very well designed, I would say.
It's a lot of like, I mean, they probably just put so much into like the game feel and all the like tiny millisecond minutia of how stuff feels, but then also like you're saying, like level design and pacing and like rolling out new abilities and how you learn them and where you learn them and stuff like that. Yeah, it's so well done. Yeah, and I want to say, I can't remember the specifics, but I feel like between Ori 1 and Ori 2 they hired a different level designer. I wish I remembered that.
I think it shows when I beat Ori 2, because I really liked Ori 1 too. I've been a fan of that one for a while, but when I finished Ori 2, I immediately took to Twitter to post my little 280 character review, and I immediately was like, Ori doesn't, in my opinion, Ori 2's it's better all around, and it's so weird because it's like if I thought Ori 1 was an 8, then I think Ori 2 is a 28. It's like like they feel like they're not comparable. I'm like Ori 2 is so much better.
Yeah, they really ramped it up in every way.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Kev, you should replay Ori.
We'll see.
I understand it's not.
It
It's
doesn't have to be for everyone, but
it's
it's a
not
beautiful game. Like I have no qualms about that. It's a stunning game. They don't hold my attention long enough. Like I think I sunk maybe 6 to 8 hours into the Ori 2, which I will say I definitely enjoyed much more than Ori 1. So it got bonus points for me there, but it wasn't enough to hold and keep me
that's a pretty
invested
good
in
amount
it.
of time though. 6 to 8 hours. I feel like you experienced the game. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's how I feel these days. I'm just like, there's so many games I don't finish, but I'll play for a few hours because I just like I want to see what it's all about. And then okay, I got that.
It's funny you say that because we were talking about that while Ori happened. I don't remember what it was, Kevin, but I remember I was putting off games because what happened to me the first time I played Ori was I played about half of it. I started playing something else because of that reason, because I think we're all that way. Or I don't know if that's a blanket statement. Us three, by you just admitting to what you just said, us three are that way.
Yeah.
We all are definitely that way. We hop around games a lot, Kevin and I. We're constantly in and out of different games.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
what's shiny?
yeah, by the time I got back to Ori, it's like I had no idea what I was doing. I completely I don't think Ori is a game for that. Like you need to commit to beating Ori. And with the sequel, I definitely did. Like I put off. We had 2 or 3 Switch games and things come out. And I was like, I am playing Ori until I reached the end.
There was something. Yeah, there was a couple things.
Yeah. So.
Well, speaking of games. So Xbox did announce, I think we should touch on this briefly here at least, some new Game Pass entries coming in.
Yes.
Not the Wild at Heart yet. We'll see. But Bard's Tale Remastered is dropping on June 18th. We have Dungeon of the Endless June 11th. All of the Kingdom Hearts, except for 3, dropping tomorrow as we're recording. So today, as you're listening to this, if you're not watching live, which is pretty awesome, because I haven't revisited those games since playing them on PS2. So I may jump in and kind of check out and see what that's about. No Man's Sky is coming to console and PC, which I did pledge. We talked about this previously on Empire that I do want to get to try that out as well. Throne Breaker, June 18th, and Grounded is coming on. Well, the game preview is coming on June 16th, which I'm also.
It's part of that Steam Fest. Yeah, and No Man's Sky is crossplay.
Yep. Yeah, crossplay is launching the day and date with this dropping in Game Pass, which is awesome.
Oh, that's exciting.
Johnny, one of the things you mentioned with your console, no more game codes, huh?
Digital Direct. I mentioned how easy it was. So normally you get a console and you'd have the codes, and you remember Xbox played around. You may not remember this when Xbox originally launched the one with Kinect. They started giving you Kinect readable codes. So you didn't have to type them in. You could hold the little receipt up to the camera, and it would read the QR code.
Which those QR codes suck. I feel like you'd probably be able to type that in quicker than trying to get that thing to focus on those things.
I actually worked pretty well. I did it a couple times. It actually was fairly snappy. But that aside, it's always kind of like a rigmarole just to do it. So now they're just registered to the box. So like when I hooked up my Xbox today, Cyberpunk, after it installed the update and everything, and I signed in with my Xbox account, and it was like, would you like to claim a free month of Game Pass? And I was like, yes, I would. Would you like to claim your free version of Cyberpunk? Sure. And that's it. And there's nothing in the box for me to claim or anything. So this has been somewhat divisive because I tweeted about it, and I had some people that I think were like me, like, that's cool. It's easy. I don't have to type the code in anymore. There are other people like, oh, now I can't sell the code. And as a person who flips things, I got to say I appreciate the second option. But I also thought about it. I've never sold a code in a box that I bought.
Right. We've seen people in our community that did it with the was it the NBA 2K whatever that came with the console. We had a couple people buy that bundle and say, I have no interest in this game.
That makes sense.
Sell it and make some $30 or $15, whatever back.
Typically when I buy a console with a pack-in, it's usually because of the pack-in.
Sure.
Typically when I'm buying the console. Quantum Break, Last of Us Remastered, Cyberpunk. That was the biggest reason why I flipped it, because like I said, I didn't have a huge affinity for the design. The biggest reason why I flipped it was because I had already bought Cyberpunk. And it's like what, $67 or something like that after taxes and everything. So I'm looking at the console plus the controller and the game for $300, and I was already $70 into it. So it's like
Yep.
$230.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at eBay prices. I'm like, wait a minute. I can get the game back for free. And I did. I mean, that's basically what happened.
Oh,
But
nice.
I
Now,
thought it was cool.
I'm wondering what happens if let's say you sell that console to me.
Yeah.
Is the game
No, it's
attached
already
to
been-
the
it's already been
console,
used.
or it's redeemed to the?
It's already been
okay.
redeemed. It's
That's
redeemed
what I
to
was
the
wondering.
account
Account. Okay.
that you log into. Now, you don't have to redeem it. And there's the interesting part. Because I was wondering on the other side, damn well somebody's going to call Xbox customer service and be like, I don't know what happened. I tried to redeem it and I couldn't. But
Sure.
I guess they can look into their accounts and just give it to them or make sure it wasn't
It
redeemed
goes
to
to
another
them.
account.
Yeah.
They can probably even remove it and re-redeem it to another one. So it might be easier. I liked it. I did. I thought it was nice and easy. Like I said, I set the thing up today in 5 minutes. And then it was right back to where I had all the games installed instantly.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Good for them.
I have 4.5 terabytes of games on my hard drive for their Xbox that I could play in 2 minutes. Can you imagine how long it would take to re-download?
Oh, forget that.
God.
I think the last thing too, I want to point out, the Halo Master Chief Collection is adding Halo 3 ODST Firefight later this summer.
Chris, are you a Halo guy?
I did recently get the remastered, or the Master Chief Collection
Master Chief
Yeah?
Collection.
on Steam.
So you're with me. I'm new to Halo. For somebody who mans an Xbox show, I'm not a Halo person. I'm Gears person.
I'm not new to Halo. I just haven't really played it since like 3.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but mentioning my brother again, but we used to play Halo and Halo 2 so much. So
Ooh.
when the Halo 2 launch was coming around with the Master Chief Collection,
Yep.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna get this.
Nice.
Actually, I think he got it for me for my birthday. Now that I'm thinking about it, but yeah. So I have been playing the Halo 2 in there, the anniversary, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah. I did the same.
So, yeah.
It's really
good.
I played the original Halo on the original Xbox. I wasn't I'm Fable, gear. I was more of that, so I wasn't as into it then. So when the Master Chief Collection come around, I was like, this is kind of a blind spot for me. Like, I've enjoyed these consoles for so many years. I'm going to get back into Halo, and I'm going to try to do it. So I played all through Halo 1, and I was like, that's okay. I played through all of Halo 2, and I was like, that's okay. And I immediately can feel the cringe of the masses everywhere. It's like, Halo 2 is amazing. It's like, I'm just not a multiplayer shooter person, right?
Yeah, I've only been playing multiplayer. Yeah.
I got about halfway through 3, and I just kind of stopped. I was like, all right, I've had enough. Like, I've done it. But I played Reach with friends. I had friends that were like, you need to play, communal Halo, because that's the thing that I think was missing. I'm playing it completely as like a Call of Duty single-player campaign focus.
Yep.
And I had a blast playing Reach, and to this point, Reach has been my favorite. But here's the interesting thing. I started looking up ODST. Previous host Nathan told me forever that he thought ODST was down my alley. And from what I know about ODST, I think he's right, Kev. ODST's got Horde, which is a firefight, right?
Yep.
I do that all the time in Gears. And
Sure.
the story is like this Starship Troopers. You're not like superhero bouncing and floating in the air. You're a band of dudes, like they all have like their own quirks and everything. It's very Gears-ish. I don't know if that's the right, but I was talking about it in chat today. I was like, I had a lot of Gears vibes, kind of like just structurally. It's definitely still Halo
not
and
gameplay
everything.
wise, right?
Yeah, structurally. And I was like, that's more my jam. And a lot of people like the story.
Yeah, it's funny you've been appreciating the non-traditional Halo games more than the traditional ones. Like, is Master Chief in this one? Nah, I don't want this one.
Kinda.
Give me the ones where it's a no-name guy that dies. Probably.
Well,
at the
you
end
know
of this
me.
video.
Space multiplayer. These are not my things, right? And like the Cortana and the Halo Ring and the Covenant. I'm like, dude, who cares, right? But you give me Reach, where there's like, it's like this Jurassic Park planet, and they've got to get off before they all die. I was like, okay, I can get into the story. It's a little bit more grounded, a little bit more my style. So I'm excited. This is good. We'll talk about next week because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, like June doesn't have a whole lot. Like this is like our first episode. Like June outlook, and we were expecting some noise from Xbox that we'll talk about next week that is maybe not coming. So I was happy to hear this news actually, because while it may not be coming out like right now, it just adds another little thing in there because not to say that there's not things to look forward to, because there are definitely like indies and ports and things that are coming. But like I think the next,
it's quiet.
It is kind of quiet. Like the next tentpole release is Wasteland, I think.
Yeah.
Like in August. And
Like
I know,
you gotta think when the most exciting thing going on was Clubhouse Games 51, that there's something different going on in the game environment right now.
I need to check this out because one of the other podcasts I listened to he was talking about it today. So
It's fun.
nice.
I was like, okay, now everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a good time waster. It's a good distraction from life right now.
Yeah, you were spot on
sure.
saying that, if this had launched instead of 1-2 Switch, no brainer.
This should have been the pack in with the Switch, I think. Like, it's that kind of hey, find all the different ways you can play this game and anybody can pick it up and play. It's the Wii Sports of
I was gonna say Wii
this
Party
generation. Yeah, Wii Party. Yep, same spirit.
Same thing. Yep.
So for the sake of time, everybody, we're gonna end things with the same way we do every week, and that's with the Xbox One question, where we take one question from you in the audience and pose it to the panel. So this week, I'm picking the one from Mr. Sean Capri. So Chris, let's say you're in the room when Don Matrick decided that the Xbox One was in fact going to be called Xbox One. What do you do? Do you immediately tell him to resign? Do you agree? And if you were to call the Xbox One something else, what would it have been?
Oh man, what's my role at the company in this scenario?
You're the big boss. You're the head honcho. You're in the room and you're like, just you get the final sign off on everything.
I would probably just say no. Try again.
I like
if
that.
I have that kind of,
that
if
is
I have that
smooth.
kind of power.
It's cold, but smooth.
I mean,
No.
I don't know. What would I call it instead? Guess you can't do the Xbox 3 because that's the 360 kind of really confused that issue.
That kind of leads into my answer. I don't know what I'd call it, but here's what I was going to say. I like that Xbox doesn't just do numbers because that's what PlayStation does. Mm-hmm. And I feel like
they have to be different.
The 360 to me wasn't a number really. It felt more like a tagline. Like I wasn't like looking at it as like, it's not like 64 where it's like 64 is a number that really meant something. It was like 360 was almost like symbolic, than the actual number itself, right? Unless somebody's going to tell me there was actually 360 processors or something into it. Something I don't know about it. But like to me, it felt more like a tagline. And like the whole swoosh and the swirl and, like the whole eternity loop and all that stuff that it was doing, infinite loop and all that. Like I was kind of into it, and I said that when they announced the Series X. I like Xbox that does that because it feels more techie and it feels more PC, and I feel like that's Microsoft's like sweet space. And I know every time we get consoles that drop, Kevin, you know exactly where I'm going with this. We're gonna have the grandma analogy that I hate so much. I don't know where these grandmas are. I've been to a lot of game stores. I've bought a lot of things. I've never seen grandma buying the stuff like so. But I don't think it's that hard to deal with. So I would prefer that they get away from numbers altogether, to be quite honest with you.
Sure.
So, but it definitely didn't make any sense. We go Xbox 360, Xbox One. I'm surprised Matrick got off with like half of what he got off, man. I've said this every time I bring up Don Matrick. I remember IGN Australia had a podcast during the Xbox's launch. Guys, I'm telling you, I wish they would release all of the Matrick cuts. The IGN Australia team used to do skits making fun of Don Matrick to start every show. And they had this guy that had like this squealy, weaselly type voice. And he would just get on there and he'd be like, guys, I'm telling you, the TV's where it's at. And they would just do these little skits. It was like Saturday Night Live for video games, and I adored it. I was dying laughing week after week. It was so good. I don't understand how Matrick got everything he got done. Like oh God, we don't have time to go through all of them. But like the whole, we have a console for you. It's a 360 that he said. I think it was like a person who was in the armed forces. He said that too. It's just like, dude, read the room. What are you doing?
Yeah.
just tell him.
Yeah, I like if I was in that room and that was the thing that came up, I'd just probably look at him and be like, "Are you drunk?" Like right now, like the Xbox One came out 15 years ago. It was our first Xbox. What I would name it, I don't know, but I think Donnie's like completely on point with Don Matrick. Like, how did he get?
He got by with a lot, like really.
Right. I mean, let's look at it this way. So previously, before this, he was head of Zynga, CEO of Zynga. So he's that guy is responsible for Farmville. Let's just go back there. I think that explains it himself. Like somehow Farmville led to this dude being allowed to call the Xbox One. I'm with you, Donnie, though. It should be get rid of the numbers. Look at Nintendo. Nintendo's never used the numbers except for like N64, but that's different.
And it had 64 bits, right? It meant something.
Right. I call it the Xbox. I don't know, but just like Series X is a closer step. I think is the what I'd rather see is just don't name it a number. Give it some pizzazz. Call it the Gamosphere, whatever, like South Park, whatever you want to do. Just give it something different to distinguish itself from the marketplace. So number one, that appeases the people who have that grandma syndrome where grandma goes in and bought me an Xbox and turns out somehow she got an Xbox from 20 years ago. I don't know how that happens, but it distinguishes people being confused. Like they'll know right away, okay, well, this is what this is called. There's nothing else called this, so I can get this. Super Nintendo Entertainment System. There's only one thing called that, no problem. You say, I want a PlayStation.
Dude.
There's only one out there right now, but you never know.
Just rip off Nintendo. Super Xbox. It's better than
Xbox
the last one.
Switch.
Mega Xbox.
But yeah, I don't know how we got away with it either. So I don't.
He does have like a tech wonderkin, kind of like a Ryan from The Office like type rise, where he gets like in this startup, it hits big, and then like goes all the way to the top of Xbox to just fall.
I mean, Zynga, Microsoft, EA, he was in leadership positions at all those. So I don't know.
He had a giant VCR that had a camera that you had to have, that was only 900p, that did TVs. Like it was all about watching ESPN through your Xbox. I mean, it was a mess that he called the Xbox One when it was the third one. It was the whole thing. When you look back, is just a giant debacle. You
know what? I'm looking him up right now, and he's Canadian too. So Sean Capri, it's actually your fault. You sent in the question. It's your fault. So we're just gonna go there. All right, so that's gonna bring us to a close for today. Before we kind of sign off and give our due diligence, Chris, where can people find you, connect with you, find out more about the Wild at Heart and Moonlight Kids? Do your plugs.
Yeah, sure. Well, I am on Twitter at Chris Sumsky. If you feel like following me, I don't really tweet that much, but more importantly, the game can be followed either at our website, which is moonlightkids.co, which is the game page is also hosted there. We are on Twitter at moonlightkids_, and our Discord is a random link with a bunch of characters in it. So you should go to our website for that and follow a link.
Kevin, you're muted. We'll put the Discord link in the show notes.
That's so what exactly
if you're listening, folks. Yeah. Look down, scroll up on the notes that nobody reads, find the link, and just click it. Just click there.
Yeah, and our website, the game page on our website has all the links: Discord, Facebook, Twitter. You can wishlist us on Steam, and set a reminder for next week because there will be a demo available.
Ooh. And we will let people know as well. Believe you me, I will be playing this for sure.
Cool.
So okay.
I was gonna say if you do join our Discord, we are gonna try to do something special just for our Discord people, like maybe another AMA or something like that, kind of in conjunction with Steamfest. I think that's sort of our plan. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for taking the last hour and 15 minutes to kind of slum it with us for a little bit and talk about what, at least for me, is shaping up to be a highlight. Tentatively for 2021 at this point, but something to look forward to for sure, and to get my hands on with next week.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. This has been really fun.
Awesome. Remind everybody, head on over to psvg.blog to find all the links to everything we do, as well as our Discord, and you can find those lovely show notes to find all the information on the Wild at Heart there. But as always, everybody, in the wise words of Uncle Phil, just remember, there is no power greater than X.